Couldn't you foresee that something like this could happen, where the ANC is going to finally make the final decision that this is what we're going to do because we are the leader, as they say, of the government of national unity?
Well, of course we can foresee that the ANC will act in bad faith. They always do. And a leopard
then why
doesn't
did you go into it? Why did you go into the GNU with them?
Can I finish before you interrupt me,
Okay.
Aldrin? The ANC refuses to make any compromises. They want to dictate the terms as if they're still a 50% plus one government, which they of course aren't. Now we're bringing out the gun and going for the kill shot. We will also stop the VAT.
Guys, so it's getting really serious. The DA now, and for me, I think one of the things I really enjoy about Helen Zille is the fact that she still believes in the courts in South Africa, even though many people have been arguing that, you know, the courts in South Africa really have not been probably giving judgments the way they should. I think there was a particular one with a pastor. I think his name is Omotosho. I think that sounds Nigerian. I'm going to do a little bit more of research, but it actually argues that the pastor was found, I think he was kind of like allegedly said to have had some rape issues and all of that. But the court made the ruling, I think, 2 days ago. I saw this on Penwell, the Black Pen's Facebook, where he says that the court found him not guilty. And most of the victims, I think that they were allegedly said that he actually had this whole crime of rape with, where really they broke down in court and all of that. But anyway, many South Africans have been arguing that the courts in South Africa have not been really giving fair judgments. One of them also boils down to the whole kill the Boer chant and judgment around that, and many others anyway. So for me, it's really surprising that Helen Zille still believes in the courts in South Africa. But whatever the case is anyway, she's leading this whole battle in court against the ANC's passage of the 0.5% VAT hike in its fiscal structure for different reasons, arguing, and one of them basically, according to her, she argues that, you know, the major problem of the ANC is that they really honestly are not interested or ready to share power. They still see the GNU as part of the kind of like the legacy they had with, as if they won the 50% plus one. This is Helen Zille now breaking the problem inside the GNU, and why the GNU is having these massive cracks we are seeing today, especially in terms of this VAT hike. And she's actually arguing, you know, that, you know, there's this point where she and Aldrin, many times they usually, they kind of like remind me of arguments between, you know, two different parts. They're always quarreling anyway. So Aldrin and Helen Zille really arguing on the whole thing with why did the DA then decide to join the GNU in the beginning if it didn't know that this probably would be a perspective the ANC would always have in terms of trying to to have a dictatorial perspective in its leadership. And so Helen Zille was like, what kind of question is that? You really watch that? But the most important thing Helen Zille is trying to argue is that they're going to court because the ANC seems to have been passing laws or carrying out its leadership, especially as it still maintains the higher number of percentage votes that actually form the GNU, that it still thinks that it won a 50% plus one majority, and that as a result of that, it really doesn't want to share power. It's still passing laws as though it was the only party in power, and that the DA, let's quickly listen to Helen Zille really argue the basis for which they would take this whole matter with the VAT hike, and that they will do everything they can to make sure that they stop the VAT hike. She actually even used the term that the DA is going to be bringing all the guns out, and they're going to be going for a kill shot.
So you will be filing papers this morning to challenge the procedure that was followed by the Standing Committee on Finance?
Yes, I'm just about to go and commission those papers, and we will be handing them over to the court this morning. We'll launch today.
You launched today. What exactly is it that you would be looking at and attacking in terms of the procedure?
Well, the procedure in the committee was wrong. They didn't vote on a key clause, and they sought to do things that they were not empowered to do, and they were warned of this repeatedly. There is no such thing, of course, as amending the resolution there, or getting a kind. You can amend the resolution. Absolutely, you can amend the framework, but you can't pass a framework conditionally. And that is what Action South Africa sought to do.
Yeah. Because they've argued that the recommendations would be taken into consideration and that on the 1st of May that we won't see a VAT increase. which some people have said that there's no chance of that happening. We will see a 0.5% VAT increase. But I want to now deal with the politics of all of this because of the meetings that have been taking place between the DA as well as the ANC. Yesterday, we heard a leaked audio of the president addressing the ANC's caucus in Parliament, telling them that essentially what has happened is that the Democratic Alliance now find themselves in a cul-de-sac, and you would have to decide whether you remain a member of the Government of National Unity. The FedEx had a meeting yesterday. What's your decision on this? What's the way forward with your participation in the GNU?
The FedEx did not have a meeting yesterday. We're having a meeting today at 1 o'clock, and that is when all of those things will be determined.
Yeah. What exactly is it that we will be having on the agenda with regards to that? Is one of those that maybe the Democratic Alliance should pull out of the GNU?
Well, obviously, we're going to assess the current situation and decide on a way forward.
Yeah. Tell us about the meeting then that happened between the Democratic Alliance as well as the ANC. Why couldn't you find each other?
It was very interesting. We almost found each other, but in the end, the simple answer to your question is that the ANC does not want to share power. It wants to dictate the terms as if it won the election, and it wants its coalition partners to prop it up. It is not in the least bit interested in sharing power.
Yeah. The argument from the ANC is that the Democratic Alliance must understand that the Government of National Unity is being led by the ANC. What's your understanding of that?
Well, the ANC can't be in government without the DA. That's just simple at the moment. And the ANC hopefully knows that. And in coalitions worldwide, you have to make compromises. The DA is prepared to make compromises, and we have made compromises. The ANC refuses to make any compromises. They want to dictate the terms as if they're still a 50% plus one government, which they, of course, aren't. And that reality still has to sink in.
Yeah. Well, on that, yesterday, the finance minister actually accused the Democratic Alliance of lying and says that they had taken in some of the proposals that have come from the Democratic Alliance, including that personal income tax must not be adjusted. The brackets.
Well, very interestingly enough, the ANC first looked very clear to make some compromises, which we were pleased about, but it did not take long before they recanted and retracted all of those and insisted that they still call all the shots. And we are very concerned about that. We're particularly concerned about VAT because, of course, it hits the poorest people the hardest. And the ANC doesn't seem to care much about that.
On that again, he says that you'd actually accepted VAT, the VAT increase, but on condition that there are some concessions that are made, including, for instance, a repeal of the Expropriation Act, the NHI Act, and also all other issues, including that the Deputy Minister of Finance be a chairperson, co-chairperson of Operation Vulindlela.
You know, the ANC really can invent some things. We didn't demand the repeal of any act. We wanted the amendment of the Expropriation Act, but we have a fallback position on the Expropriation Act. We're going to court on it, and we have what we consider a silver bullet on that issue. And secondly, we will also stop the VAT increase. We will do everything we can to stop the VAT increase, A, because the procedure in the Portfolio Committee was incorrect, and B, because we believe we have a silver bullet there too on the constitutionality of the VAT Act.
Yeah. On VAT, again, are you saying that the Democratic Alliance was saying that they're against the VAT increase and there was no conversation about concessions, that if we support the VAT increase and the budget in its entirety, there should be the concessions? Because you can't be saying that we are against the VAT, yet we will support the budget if there are concessions that are made.
Well, we can negotiate a whole package, the basis of which would be whether or not we support the budget. So there are a whole number of issues that we needed to win. But particularly, we needed to win the concessions that would grow the economy. Absolutely. And we got none of those. The ANC wasn't in the least bit interested in doing the things that are necessary to attract investment, growth, and jobs. And on that basis, we really can't do anything that helps them come over the line. This is give and take. They like to take, they don't like to give.
The minister, once again, and also the deputy president of the country in that leaked audio, speaks of the Democratic Alliance defining itself outside the government of national unity. Is that your view as well, that the Democratic Alliance has defined itself outside the government of national unity because it didn't vote for a budget that was presented by a member of the government of national unity and its executive being the Minister of Finance?
What is unheard of in coalitions anywhere in the world is for a party in the coalition to go and seek support from parties outside the coalition to beat back legitimate negotiations with a party inside the coalition. That is unheard of. And when a party in a coalition acts with such bad faith, it is very rare that coalitions survive.
Helen, do you think that this is something that the Democratic Alliance should have foreseen could happen in the government of national unity? Also thinking like from right at the beginning, when we first had our conversation after the establishment of the government of national unity, the concerns that you had with the implementation or an understanding of the statement of intent, and then on top of that also the number of ministerial deployees that were given to the Democratic Alliance. Couldn't you have foreseen that something like this could happen, where the ANC is going to finally make the final decision that this is what we're going to do because we are the leader, as they say, of the government of national unity?
Well, of course we can foresee that the ANC will act in bad faith. They always do. And a leopard
then why
doesn't
did you go into it? Why did you go into the GNU with them?
Can I finish before you interrupt me,
Okay.
Aldrin? Okay, thank you very much. The bottom line is this. We had a very difficult choice to make. The ANC got 39% in the election. It would have been a doomsday coalition if the ANC, MK, and the EFF had got into government. It would have been the end of South Africa's economy. The message from the voters was clear. The DA, as the second biggest party, needed to try and rescue South Africa. That was our pledge in the election. We also said that we would do everything possible to keep out the doomsday coalition, and we did. We gave it our very best shot in good faith. We have always behaved in good faith and honorably. We have given the ANC time after time after time to correct its bad faith behavior and its manipulative behavior. This time, what has happened is truly unprecedented as far as I know, which is when two major parties in a coalition are negotiating, the bigger party goes to other parties outside of the coalition to seek to get a majority. That is the worst possible faith in a coalition. And of course, we mustn't be surprised, but that does not mean to say that the DA should not have tried to rescue South Africa.
Yep. With that said, is the fear of a doomsday coalition still there for the Democratic Alliance? Do you put that on the agenda when you have your conversation later on today? And with that as well, I just want to go back to the remarks that you were quoted making at the SA Chamber of Commerce in the UK. We were told to prop up Cyril Ramaphosa and shield him from the EFF and the MK. The DA said that this was a disaster and it would cause people, particularly the business community, to lose interest in somehow take their businesses elsewhere. Do you think that that is still the position as it stands currently? Do you still take that into consideration?
Well, we take everything into consideration on the FedEx. We've got a large group of highly intelligent people there who think things through from every possible angle. So nothing is off limits on the FedEx, and I certainly don't control the agenda with an iron fist. People can raise what they like if it's relevant to the topic. So almost all of these things are going to come onto the table. We are absolutely committed to rescuing South Africa and its major metros and local authorities. And this isn't the end of the road for us. We have a very strong support base. It's a growing support base overall. And we will continue to convince people that if they vote for small parties like Action SA and Rise Mzansi, that those parties will continue to throw their weight behind the ANC at critical moments and make it impossible to have economic growth and jobs. We've warned people about these smaller parties for the longest time. And hopefully some people are now beginning to learn. Rise Mzansi put the Premier in Panyaza Lesufi in Gauteng. And now, courtesy of Action SA, Rise Mzansi, the Patriotic Alliance, Build One South Africa, all those parties, we're going to get a VAT increase unless the DA stops it in the courts.
Okay. Speaking about Gauteng, the negotiations that will be taking place today at FedEx, will KZN's coalition be put on the table at all?
Well, people can raise what they like, as I say, at FedEx. They can say, my next point is X and Y and Z, and this is why it is relevant to the topic on the agenda. So I can't predict what will come up at FedEx, but what the agenda on the agenda of the FedEx says that we are going to be discussing the situation following on from the Portfolio Committee meeting and following on from the plenary yesterday, which adopted the fiscal framework.
All right. And finally, Helen, news coming out of the United States, Liberation Day declared by Donald Trump, a 30% reciprocal tariffs for South Africa. Your take is on the Democratic Alliance on this, including this growing tension between South Africa as well as the United States, because while making this announcement, Donald Trump once again spoke about the very, very bad things that are happening here in the country.
Yes, what can one say? It's going to be disastrous for our automotive industry in particular, if they have a 30% tariff slapped on our motor vehicles that are made in the vicinity of Pretoria and Nelson Mandela Bay. Obviously, it's going to be terrible for us, but our government won't learn. You know, there's tension between the ANC and just about every democracy in the world. And there's certainly profound tension between the ANC and Democrats in South Africa.
Yeah, but the European Union has actually come out in support of the government of South Africa.
Well, the obvious point is that they're saying, please don't kill the South African economy. That's what they're saying. They're not coming out in favor of Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC. What they are saying is that at this stage, because of the ANC's behavior, do not kill the nascent economy that has a chance of growing and getting more people into jobs. And anything that gets more people out of jobs and adds to the horrific statistic of South Africa having the highest unemployment rate that is recorded in the world, anything that worsens that is disastrous for us. And I'm glad the Europeans are saying, don't kill South Africa's economy while it's already on its knees, battling to get up. The ANC delivered another attempted kill shot on the South African economy yesterday. The DA will continue to try and save the economy. And Donald Trump's move does not help at all.
Yeah. When can we expect the outcome of the FedEx meeting?
Well, you know, it'll be over when it's over. We will make a statement after that. I'm sure John will speak to the nation at some critical point today, and I think that is being finalized as we speak. But at the moment, we're in a holding pattern. We are going to take stock of everything that happens today. We will be looking closely at the value of the rand, at what happens to our bonds, at what happens to economic forecasting following Trump's tariff announcement. We will be doing all of those things. And we don't rush in with major announcements. We consider things, we take legal advice as well. The big move this morning is going to be that I'm going to be deposing to some very important court papers. And in those court papers, we will seek to have the events at yesterday's committee, or sorry, no, it's the day before yesterday now, the day before yesterday's committee declared unprocedural and unlawful, number one. Number two, we will seek to interdict the VAT increase and to have the VAT Act itself and sections of it declared unconstitutional. So that is the major development for today. We knew that we could do this all along, but we were trying to achieve what we had to achieve through negotiations. When the ANC acted in such bad faith, we said, now we're bringing out the gun and going for the kill shot.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Helen Zille.